Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. We are thinking about animal behavior. That is a thinker. And luckily, I have Drew here who's going to help us think about this in a whole new way. Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Drew, for coming onto my show, sharing your time and your perspective with me. Let's just dive in. Okay. So, when you hear those words, animal behavior, what does that make you think about?
Oh wow. I mean, there are so many different things. I mean, obviously I work in the dog world, so I'm training. So immediately my first thought goes to dogs and how they act in our home and how we interact with them and kind of what awesome and sometimes awful behaviors we have to deal with our dogs. That's kind of where my brain goes initially.
Oh, I agree. I love dogs. I actually used to breed dogs.
Okay.
Back day, yeah, and a few years ago, I used to breed pit bull bullies, and we preferred the short statured and the I mean, so I know what it means to like love a dog, understand the dogs. Like you realize that like, each animal has its own personality, their own little quirks, their own little. It's so interesting. Like people don't even realize like they're not all the same, you know? So yes, I think that is something that is truly fascinating when I have another dog lover like that I talk to because you get to really understand and appreciate the fact that they are unique all up in itself. So it's like for you, did you ever encounter a breed that was just more difficult than another?
Yeah, and people ask me that question all the time, and everybody thinks I'm insane when I say this because what I run into is not what the normal person is going to think of. But honestly, one of the most challenging dogs to train is actually a Dachshund.
Watson, are those wiener dogs?
Yeah,
Oh, really? And that's funny that you say that because I told my husband that if we, because our dog, my Chinese Shar Pei just died recently, just a few
oh
months
no.
ago, and it was really hard. And I told him that I want to take a break before we get another one, but if I get another one, I wanted a wiener dog, and I wanted to name him Rhino. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
totally different because he's so tiny and petite. But it's like, why do you think why are they so difficult then?
Well, I think it's a couple of things. So, I mean, they are actually originally bred to be hunting dogs. So they're intended to go into small locations, small holes, and on farms and things to get small rodents and things like that. So that's part of the reason for their genetics as far as size wise. But part of that is those hunting dogs like that, they're bred to be independent thinkers and to be able to make decisions on their own in those types of environments, like every hunting dog. Um, but part of the difference, I think, is that they're also so small and cute, and it's really easy to baby them a lot. And so the combination of that strong will and that independent thinking process, as well as how we kind of tend to just naturally baby them and maybe not enforce some rules quite so much because of their cuteness and their size. I think that just makes it kind of combined together to be a little bit more challenging. Now they're great dogs, they really are, but you do have to be a little more patient. It does sometimes take a little bit more time to do things than some other dogs.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, for me, my experience with the hardest dog to train was a miniature pinscher. Those
Yeah, I can see
miniature
that.
pinchers was so difficult. Oh my goodness, he made me run blocks chasing after him. And oh my goodness, the irkness that he did, like, oh, that dog
Yeah,
made me realize that I never wanted a miniature pincher again. You know what I mean? And I had
yeah, oh
big,
yeah,
I had big Dobermans at one point, you know, so I love the breed. You know what I mean? They're very calm, they're very protective, very loving. So I was like, why not
yeah,
get it miniaturized? Like, no. Totally opposite, different energy level, and oh
oh
my
yeah.
goodness, it really is. But what made you become a dog trainer? Like you could have been any type of trainer. Why a dog trainer?
So I'll give you the short version. Um, the kind of the Cliffs Notes version is basically we got a puppy, and we decided that this was actually um, several years ago. My We got the puppy. It was the first time that my kids had actually had a puppy. We always had dogs, but when they were born, we had the dogs that my wife and I had before them, and they grew to be 15, 16 years old. So my kids had never had a puppy, and so we got this puppy, and I decided that it would be fun for us to go to as a family and do a puppy class and just go and
Yeah.
do it all together, get him some training, get him some basics. And he was a pretty rambunctious guy, and we got him at like 12 weeks or so. And I fell in love with doing all the practice and all the work and all the stuff that we were doing with him. And I always loved dogs, and I've been involved in a few different things with dogs. But one evening after we had gone to this class, my son, who was about 5 years old at the time, I guess,
Yeah.
he said, Daddy, I don't think I ever want to go to college. I think I just want to train dogs. And
Oh,
I thought, that is brilliant. What do you do to even become a dog trainer? And so I started doing the research and doing the legwork, and met the right people with Paw and Order, and it became it was just a natural fit. And it
yeah.
it just kind of snowballed into where we
What you
are and
do?
what we do now.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, that is a beautiful story. You were inspired by just enjoying something. And I think that's the real thing is when you're able to enjoy something, man, it really does change your life where you realize you're not working. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You are doing your passion, you're doing what feels right, and you're doing what's the best for you and your family. And now that you know that it inspired your son to love animals, respect animals, pay attention to animals' behaviors and movement when like I know, you know what I mean? I've been around dogs for so long. I've bred dogs as well. Like to be honest, I now going forward, I only adopt dogs that are like older, anything 3 years and older. I go for it because I don't want to do that training anymore. I don't want to do that pissing in a wall, pissing in things, eating
right.
things up. You know what I mean? I'm done with that stage.
Yeah,
I like them trained already and set, and let me love you until the end of your days. You know what I mean? Like that's
yeah,
that's 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 my direction. I after my dog died, I didn't want another dog, so I adopted a cat. And I even didn't want a kitten. Like I didn't want to deal with that little like kitten and you know what I mean, deal
yeah.
with any of that. I wanted a grown cat. So I got a 5-year-old cat and he's lovely and he's patient, he does his own thing and he loves me when he loves me. So it's just like I prefer the older generation. So for you, do you still like the puppies for your family or do you prefer the older generation?
I like things about both. Um,
Yeah.
so I really enjoy the puppies. I like being able to set the foundations early, and I think you can in some ways bond differently with a puppy versus an older dog. But I like things about the older dogs too, especially when it comes to sometimes the training, because you've got like a little bit longer attention span. You've got a little bit more focus. You know, potty training is always a nightmare for most cases. Um, so I like things about all of them.
Yeah.
I have three dogs of my own. One will be 2 years old the end of this week. The other is almost six, and the other guy is 11. So I've got one of each of those kind of age ranges, and they're all awesome in their own ways, and they have their very different personalities and different things that we do together with each one. And so, I think it's all a matter of preference. I think
Yeah.
from a training perspective, every dog can learn, um,
Yeah.
from young to old. There is kind of that mentality out there sometimes that once they hit a certain age, what they are is what they are, and you can't teach them anything. And I haven't found that to be true.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree. I don't think that's true at all because an animal, they adapt to you. They understand
yeah.
your maneuvers, they understand your patterns, they understand your routines, and they are so smart. Like animals are
Oh
so
yeah.
intelligent. I feel like people don't give them as much credit as they deserve. So yeah, I agree. I
I
think that's
agree.
just something that people don't realize. But since you were talking about how that wiener dog dachshund, is it right, that
Yeah.
how they're bred for a certain scale set, and do you think it's important for people to understand what type of breed they're dealing with when they are obtaining an animal because of those facts that some dogs are bred for certain things versus another?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. I think that. a lot of times people pick a dog based on, oh, I think this is a cool breed. Or they like the
Yeah.
way it looks. It's cute. It's big. It looks tough. I saw
Yeah.
this one on a movie.
Yeah.
All of those different reasons that a lot of people will get a dog. But I think you do have to kind of take into account what those breeds are meant to do. And still, like kind of like you said, every dog is still different, even among the same breed, but there are certain characteristics that are just genetically in there that do sometimes take effect. And again, not everyone is exactly the same just because they're a breed. I think that a dog is a dog before they're actually a specific breed.
Yeah.
So there are similarities across the board among every dog, and then other things that are just characteristics based on kind of their natural genetics, and whether it's how they look, how they act. Sometimes it's some dogs are more prone to anxiety. Some dogs are just they need more activity. Some dogs are extra lazy. And some of that is genetically input, but they're all very different. Um, Even among the same breed. I mean, we are all humans, we're all people, but we're all still very different. And dogs
Yeah.
kind of are that same kind of thing.
Oh, I love that. And I think that holds so much value. And I'm glad you put it in that reference that dogs are just like humans in their own sense. They have different genes or different like what separations to separate them from like a Cane Corso to a Doberman to, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Obviously, it's just like an Italian to an Arabian to, you know what I mean, a
sure.
Brazilian. I mean, we're all
Yeah,
different in our own way, but at the same time, it's like we're still human and those animals are still dogs. So they still hold so much value all up in itself. And I don't think anyone should really discriminate a dog just because of a perception. You know what I mean? So it's like for
sure.
you,
Yeah.
what do you say to those individuals that have like a stigma against a certain breed? What is the best advice that you can give them?
I think I would go back to really exactly what I just said. Like they're all very different, and again, some breeds are genetically predisposed to do certain things and act certain ways, but just because they are that breed doesn't mean that this dog is going to completely act that way. There are a lot of other factors that can contribute. How we raise them, what we do with them, the environments we put them in, the socialization that we do with them, all of those types of things, how we treat, how we interact with them, what kind of boundaries we set for them, what kind of training we do. There are all kind of factors that can come in and really change the way this dog acts, regardless of the breed. But again,
Yeah.
there. I think there are still legitimate reasons to be concerned about certain things and certain behaviors, and you want to do. I think you want to do your research whenever you're looking at a breed. So I don't want people to misunderstand that I'm saying like it doesn't matter what they are, just get what you want, because that's not the case at all. Like there are a
Yeah.
lot of things that are very specific to certain breeds, and the majority are may act this way. So, but you have to take into account like your lifestyle, what you want out of a dog, what you're going to do. Like, if you're kind of a couch potato and want to just kind of hang around the house and not really do a whole lot, you know, a working line German Shepherd is probably not the dog for you, no matter how cool you think they are. And the opposite side of if you're really really outdoorsy or really a big hiker or very active or things like that, where you're going to go and you want the dog to do all those things with you, then you probably don't want a pug. So it's probably just you do have to take those things into account, but there are a lot of factors outside of just the breed in and of itself.
Oh, absolutely. And I love the way that you stated it because I think that's one thing that a lot of people do miss. They forget about it. They think of, oh, I want it for protection or I just want it from the house. And yeah, I get it. Like my sister, she did that. She bought a King Corso, spent thousands of dollars on a purebred King Corso, and did not realize that it was gonna grow so big. It was
Yeah,
gonna need so much energy to be released, and she didn't have the time. Nobody else had the time, and nobody had the strength to actually deal with him. So she had to end up forfeiting it back to the breeder, and it just makes you realize like you spent thousands of dollars on
yeah.
a purebred dog, but you don't actually have the capability to actually maintain it in your life and in your routine. So I think that's a very valid point. Like you have to be realistic with your
Yeah.
lifestyle, with your environment, what you want to do. You know what I mean? Because I heard that Great Danes are just lazy love bugs. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
if you expect a Great Dane to go be an adventurous person, you're not gonna always have that because they also have hip issues sometimes. You know what I mean? So it's just like
Yeah.
we have to really do our due diligence because it's like you wouldn't bring a child into this world without doing your due diligence. You know what I mean? You wouldn't bring a
Right.
child into this world without having a crib or having blankets or at least, you know what I mean, diapers
Yeah.
or something. So it's just like we have to take that into consideration. And one of my favorite dog trainers is Caesar Milan. Have you seen him at
Oh
all?
yeah.
Like, yeah. Oh my goodness. My favorite parts is when he actually tells the owners, "I'm sorry, but we're gonna have to keep the dog because they are no longer suitable in your home." Like, I don't know why, but for me, that brings me joy because it's like some people won't change their thinking, change their habits, change their routines just to match what the dog needs. So, have you ever had that moment where you had to you suggested that a person surrenders their dog?
Yeah, I've had, fortunately, not a lot of situations where I've had to deal with stuff like that. I have had the conversation with people from time to time of, that maybe this is not the right dog for your family or your lifestyle. Or, there have been times where there have been dogs, a couple of times where, this dog is dangerous for whatever reason. And, I'm not ever the one to dive in and say, okay, well, you need to get rid of this dog, or you need to euthanize this dog, or you need to do those things. That is not my way of doing things, and that's not necessarily, in some cases, not completely. Although I am considered to be an expert in this field, I don't feel like it's necessarily completely my place to say, okay, this is what has to happen with this dog. I usually try to approach it like, okay, you need to have some serious conversations and some serious thought about what your future is with this dog and what this dog's future is. Like, if this, for example, I had one at one point was super, super dangerous dog, had sent a couple of people to the hospital, and it was kind of, it was just a really rough situation. And we had to have the conversation of, okay, you don't have a lot of time. You're not home a whole lot.
Yeah.
If this dog gets out of your house and your neighbor's kid is walking out here, what's going to happen to that child? And then what are your liabilities? What are your responsibilities? You know, these are all things that you have to take into account. There are, and I'm realistic enough to know that not everything in the dog training world is my expertise. There are
Yeah.
people out there that really specialize in certain areas. There are certain things that some people just enjoy doing more than others. I mean, there are certain things that I enjoy doing more than others. So I'm always one as well who, if I feel like somebody else might be a better fit or a better trainer or better specialized for that problem, I'm perfectly fine helping that person find the person that might be a better fit for them. And so I've had those conversations of, okay, if you're going to do this, maybe you need to find a specialist in this specific area. And I try a lot of times not to make a decision for somebody, but
Yeah.
help coach them through the options and make
Yeah.
them really, really think about what their responsibilities are as a dog owner, not
Yeah.
only to the dog, but to their family,
Yeah.
their community, and,
Yeah.
and the things around them that could be problematic.
Oh,
And sometimes it's
absolutely.
not that extreme where the dog is dangerous. Sometimes it's just this dog needs way more activity and way more engagement and way more attention than what you're able to give. So we have to think about, is this the right dog for you and your family? Um,
Yeah.
and it's not, not every dog is for every family, and not every family is for every dog. And sometimes we do have to have that conversation, but fortunately, it hasn't come up a whole
Oh,
lot.
that's good. Well, that's good. That's good that you haven't encountered it a lot because, it is heartbreaking to hear, like, oh, I'm not fit for this animal, you know what I mean? Because it's like,
Yeah,
oh, I've grown an attachment to it. I love it. I try my best, but it does we have to really consider the bigger picture. An animal is not like a pretty sweater, you know what I mean? An animal is a living being, you know what I mean, that requires a type of energy and resources and, like you said, liability because it does affect other people in the community and the environment in some way, shape, or form, especially it's becoming a little bit more dangerous. You know what I mean? And the fact that you just refer them to other places that maybe need to know a specialization or a dog walker to give them that extra energy, you know what I mean? That really does show that your commitment to your work and what you're doing, and you're really there for everybody, the animal as well as the owner of the animal, you know what I mean? And that really shows so much value in what you're doing, that this is not just some 9 to 5 job. This is not some like pick me up little hobby. You know what I mean? This is like your passion, your soul is into it. You know what I mean? Your work is into it. And I just wish more people did their type of work with more passion, with more enthusiasm, with more insight and research, knowing that there's a longer end to this journey. And if we were just able to just look at it differently, think about it differently, then we all can just really get together and do things for the greater good of yourself and for the community as a whole. And I wish more people can really think about this, especially when it comes to dogs and when it comes to just animals in general, you know what I mean? Because I've seen stories where birds are not even a good fit or cats are not a good fit, you know what I mean? But it's like we have to really consider, like, is this really a good fit for the way that I move through life, the way that I'm in my directory of life, you know what I mean? Like we really have to ask ourselves those hard questions when we're bringing an animal into our environment, because it's going to require us to maybe get uncomfortable, shift things around, move things so that we can make that accommodations. And if you're someone that's not willing to make accommodations, then maybe an animal is just not the best suit for you, you know? So that's really something that people really need to think about. They can get a chia pet.
Yeah. And it's cool because like there are so many options out there. Like there are so there is a dog, in my opinion, and maybe I'm biased, but there is a dog out there for everybody who wants
Yeah.
one. You just
Yeah.
got to find that right one and kind of take the time, and they can bring so much to your life that a lot of us maybe missing or maybe just wanting a little bit of extra. Um,
Yeah.
so there's so much to a relationship with the dog that sometimes gets overlooked. Even with when people think about training, people think about a very rigid, very militaristic style sometimes, and things that aren't always the case. You don't have to be this dictator with your
Right.
dog. You can be that compassionate, cuddle partner, but you got to find that right dog. But you still have to set some boundaries, or you
Right.
can have that dog if it's what you want. If you are that more rigid, more strict, you can have that dog that is very fine tuned and very refined and very, super obedient. So there's such a wide range, and I think that no matter really what you're looking for, there's one out there for you, and you can have that. But it's just a matter of finding that and figuring out how to implement it into your lifestyle in a way that you don't have to completely uproot your whole lifestyle around your dog. I want you to be able to implement that dog into your lifestyle and have that life together
Yeah.
more so than,
Abs-
I'm just bending over backwards and now I'm a prisoner in my own home because I got this puppy and he's got separation anxiety and I can never leave. That's not what we want. We want to try to help you if you have those problems. We want to help you get through those problems, but we want
yeah.
a life together is really what we really look for.
Yeah, that's the right words, a life together. I mean, if we can deal with spiders in the corners of our house, then why can't we deal with like a pet, an actual pet that can love us and give us that emotional affection that we really do need and do want, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it's just having life in your house, in your home, makes you realize like, oh, you're okay. You know what I mean? It gives you this sense of peace.
Yeah,
When you hear something coming down the stairs, it's your dog. It's not some burglar hiding in the closet. You
right.
know what I mean? It
Yeah,
really does put things into perspective. So yes, oh my goodness, Drew, I really enjoyed this conversation, and time
yeah.
is catching up to us. But what can be some lasting words that you can leave us off with to keep on thinking?
Oh wow. Oh, so many, so many. I think I can. I mean, I could go on about this stuff forever. But I think that what I would say, as far as anybody who is thinking about a dog, wanting a dog, has a dog, do the things that, as I said, do the things that are going to bring this dog into your lifestyle, and so that you can live a life together. I think training is great. I think obviously because that's what I do for a living, but I think every dog has the potential to be a great dog. I think that we have to be willing to put in the time and the effort and build the relationship and have effective communication is really what it's
Mm,
all about, as with any relationship. And
yeah.
so, without don't humanize the dog because they think very, very differently than us. And I guess that goes back very much to the animal behavior aspect. Our psychology is different. And I think that's where
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
But I think the big stuff is, do your research, talk to the professionals, check out the breeds, really sit down before you just run to the shelter and adopt a dog. Think
Yeah.
about what you're getting and what you want to do and what you're willing to put in, because with any relationship, you get out of it what you put into it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, those are such great words and so, oh my goodness, so great words so that we can really think about this in a whole new way and really take that consideration, considering your lifestyle, considering your habits, considering your routines, you know what I mean? Willing to combine and just knowing that it's a relationship. And yes, the psychology is most definitely different when it comes to an animal's instincts versus a human's instinct. So we have to
Absolutely.
be realistic and we have to take that into consideration. And it's not just like it's not like a baby doll, you know what I mean? They are
Right.
real with emotions and personalities like we were saying earlier. And it's like we really have to really take into consideration because a dog's life and is important too, you know what I mean? All lives matter. If it has a heartbeat and it has breath in its lungs, then it matters, you know what I mean? It
I agree.
doesn't matter if it's an animal or if it's a human. If it has that heartbeat and it has those breaths in its lungs, then allow a type of different understanding in your mind to shift so that you can appreciate. And if you don't know, then find help. There's so many resources, just like you know what I mean? Just like people like Drew are here to really help you and guide you and motivate you to do the best that you can in your situation. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to know more about Drew because you enjoyed this conversation, because how could you not? Go check him out. I have access to his link that goes straight to his website so that you have find all the great content that he has to offer the world so that you can continue on thinking. So with that being said, bye.